and welcome back to Bold and Bawdy. This is your lovely, lovely host, Maddie. Hey. Joined by my other co-hosts.
Lena D.
She cute.
Wow.
Thanks.
And I'm Wesley.
He's not.
No, I'm not cute.
But
Listening to Locked Up by Akon. Don't know why.
I feel like you listened to that recently or
No,
like
I
two
listened-
episodes ago.
I was listening to something else. Another
So you're
another
just an
Akon
Akon fan.
I am a big Akon fan, actually.
He's over here lighting up half of Africa. We should be. his
Yeah.
fans.
In Senegal, what? I need to go see that country.
Sure.
Go. See the sights.
Okay.
The
so
ladies. Anybody in Senegal listening?
today, what we're going to be talking about
And the Senegalese
veering
chicks
us
that are
off
listening right now.
course.
the fact that, you know what, at the rate that we're going, they're probably going to have better reproductive rights than we do here.
Probably.
Any country, I feel.
Because the Trump
I
administration
would say
is on
that.
some
Like
fucking...
any country. Let's not forget, Saudi Arabia just allowed women to drive cars, okay?
That is true, but I would say
We just said the way we're trending.
Okay.
Trending
I was like, okay. I was like,
We're not trending towards
because
I would
there's,
hope
or away
not.
from that.
there's a few
Some
ways that
handmade
things
shit.
there's a few ways that things trend. So you're either making improvements, that's a positive trend.
Yes.
You're not doing shit, that's not a trend line.
Stagnant.
It's just flat.
Yeah.
And then when you're taking back and dismantling like years of progress, that's a downward trend.
Very true.
So the nerd in me is really over here thinking, so I wonder what the slope on the downward trend in, because we know if we're not making progress, that's a zero. So
You'll end up in Gilead. Watch.
in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I feel like it's such a foreshadowing. But I guess we should start with, what are we talking about? So for those of you that haven't been paying attention, this administration has slowly and surely been trying to, as Lena D just said, dismantle a lot of the progress that's been made over the past few decades. This isn't all new shit. As much as this administration loves to just blame Obama for everything.
Thanks, Obama.
First of all, you're not going to talk about president like that. Watch your tone.
Second of
'Cause
all,
that's my boo.
Obama ain't your president no more. Because
He
we
is
got
always my president,
orange
sir.
buffoon in the office.
You can't tell me shit. Okay?
In my
She over here talking about some Young Jeezy stuff.
in
My
my
president
heart,
is black.
He's still
My
black.
Lambo is blue. I be blah blah if my rims ain't too.
My Metro card is
The same color as Trump.
damn.
But in my heart, though, he'll always be my president.
Always and forever.
I have a funny
always and forever.
I have a funny story with that, though.
Wait, hold on.
Wait, what? What?
How you interrupt us and then say nothing?
I don't know.
Shut up. So, anyway, funny story. My brother got stopped by like campus police like sometime last year because I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but he was a little tipsy.
Full of like,
And so then the campus police guy is like, and he wasn't driving, he was like walking somewhere, which makes it even weirder.
wait, you got stopped for walking while drunk, sir? Yo, he was doing some real fuckery.
Man, you better hit the jets on him. Run.
And so
He
then
probably couldn't run straight. Maybe
the guy
that's what
was
happened.
like, the guy was like on his case, and he's like, so who's our president? And he's like, Obama. And then the guy's like,
No.
I'm just gonna let you go.
He's like, it's not really because I feel you on that one.
Well, technically,
But technically-
January of last year, depending on when he got stopped, it could have been Obama
No,
or
it was
Trump.
it was
It was
like
probably
past
well
the
after.
the
Oh, okay.
confirmation.
Okay,
So-
okay, yeah, definitely not.
He's just like, in my head, that is
Well-
still my president too.
Yeah, I'm like, well,
No, but we are so off. Like how we start off on the wrong topic. Like, damn, focus, guys.
Because
It's just
I
like
comment.
it's so much passion behind like progress that you're now gonna
Well,
sadly break the news to us for those that
know.
haven't been keeping up.
we keep trying to keep you guys informed. We
Stay
don't
woke.
just want to talk about fucking, although we don't mind talking about fucking. but
could.
our reproductive rights are something that pretty much it goes hand in hand. And right now, as we're in a place where the panels and the people that are making the decisions around our reproductive rights are mostly old white men. Like, you see the images, you see the people that are working on these laws and enacting it or changing it. There are very few women that are part of this decision.
What are you talking about, Maddie? Like, old white men know exactly what you want.
I know most old white men and know exactly what should be happening with my body, with my uterus, with all of that. But I just
That was sarcasm,
feel
by
like
the way.
maybe we could spice it up a little bit
There you go.
and let someone that actually has a vagina put in some 2 cents on
Or even like if it was a white male doctor that was like,
what they don't need that kind of information.
perhaps no,
But or you know what? How about we just throw in a younger white man? Like
maybe.
I think I'd be even happy with that.
Nah,
Like,
not
a
just
white man in
any
his
older
30s.
white man.
Like,
nah, we don't want to do that.
No, a
I'm
younger
just saying,
one.
in terms of us
a
wanting
younger
some
one?
kind
Nah,
of
still even
diversity, like it's all old white men who are way past. Like, they have great grandchildren, and they're trying to tell us what to do with our bodies. Like, that just drives me crazy. But this is where we are.
Yeah.
And as Wesley said, we're essentially leaning towards Handmaid's Tale. If you
Handmaid's
don't
Tale
watch
status.
Handmaid's Tale, what are you doing with your life?
Yo, Handmaids is crazy, man. I it's not for the faint-hearted, and for all the adults out there who do have kids, don't watch it with your kids.
Oh, don't ever watch it.
Because
No, please don't.
there's some stuff that's there. You just like, it's hard for me to watch, and I watch a lot of horror shit, and there's certain scenes in that show that I even cringe, and I'm always like, Lena, do you fast forward this because I can't watch? She's like, no, I want to watch it. And I'm just like,
I like watching
Just like
all
that?
the parts.
I was like, there's some stuff in there that I'm just like, yo, I can't watch it. I can't even stomach this. I'm like, I don't even know how like guys can do this, but me, I don't even have the stomach for it. Like, I'm just like, nah, fast forward this shit. I can't watch this rape scene or whatever. Like, I'm good. I'm totally good on this. So I don't know. I'm good.
I think it's because you have a heart. Like,
I have a heart too, but
that might be it.
I like watching.
as a
all
dude.
the
I mean, as a dude.
oh, as a,
I
as
feel
a
like
dude.
we could stomach more. We're just like, yeah, there's some old foolishness. Dudes, they're just like, this makes me really uncomfortable.
Nah, just-
Or they're just like, yeah, she deserved that shit. Wait, what?
No, you, sir.
Like, I mean, if I had a handmaid, why? Why are you even
I don't even know
considering
what
that
the-
shit? But no, the reason that we say like we're leaning towards or that's where we're trending is because of a lot of the moves that have happened since Trump was sworn in, and he had talked about these things like on the campaign trail, so it's nothing that's surprising to us. One of those things is pretty much undermining the protections for Title X. And in case you're wondering what Title X is, it was passed in 1970 by Richard Nixon. In case you don't know, Richard Nixon was not a Democrat.
No.
Not a Democrat.
No.
And it was to provide federal subsidies to help lower income families obtain access to birth control. That had started in 1965 under Lyndon B. Johnson as part of his war on poverty. He was a Democrat, so there I'm gonna get you got that part. But Nixon felt like the subsidies weren't adequate.
Can you imagine
A
that?
Republican president.
A Republican president agreeing with a Democrat president from the past administration to extend something that may not have been the best interest for him, but in the best interest of the
or
country.
The people.
For the
And the
people.
people.
I mean,
And
why
he's
can't
like,
we
it's
have
not doing enough.
why can't we be having a war on poverty now instead of a war on drugs? Like,
The war on
Girl.
drugs has failed.
Because the
completely.
war on drugs is
Coincidentally,
making them more money.
Coincidentally, Nixon
than
is
the
the
war
one
on-
that started the war on drugs.
Exactly.
I don't think
He
we
was
should
just
really
like-
praise this guy all that
Yeah,
much.
we're not
either.
giving him
no,
that
but
much
no,
credit.
that was
The whole
And then
vintage.
Reagan just kind of turned that shit up into high gear.
But the whole point is this particular thing isn't something that was a Democrat or liberal thing, and its purpose was to protect and to help lower income individuals.
Mm-hmm. And that fact that it also was passed in the 70s.
Yes.
So talk about the amount of time.
Exactly. Like, this isn't something new. You hear about it a lot now, but this isn't something that just popped up. It's not new on the scene, But on March 30th, your vice president, because my vice president is still Joe Biden, but your vice president, Mike Pence, cast a tie-breaking vote in the Senate to dismantle Obama's rule that was extending the protections of basic health care under Title X. So it was passed in the 70s based on things that were happening under Lyndon B. Johnson, the Democrat. It was passed by a Republican, and it's been happening, and it's been in place since then. And Obama just came along, and he was just like, you know what, maybe we should add a little more to that. So y'all's president was just like, absolutely not. This is not okay. So, yeah, Pence voted March 30th, and your president signed it into law on April 14th. So what Obama was trying to do was to clarify the existing law to make sure that patients have access to critical Title X care from the most qualified family health planning provider available, regardless of any other services that they provided. So what you might be more familiar with is defunding Planned Parenthood and that whole concept, because Title X essentially says that if this organization, if this whatever hospital is the best family planning provider in your area, then we're going to extend funds and coverage for them. So people that are anti-abortion started feeling like it doesn't matter what other services they provide. If abortion is one of those services, then they should not be covered under this law.
But we're not separating the religious component of this from the moral piece of this.
Oh, you mean covering and providing health care to low income individuals or individuals that don't have access to those basic health care needs that they have because they're in a rural community, because they don't have the hospitals or they don't have the health insurance to cover those things? You mean that moral obligation? You would think so. And as a Christian, it always drives me crazy whenever I hear that argument, where it's just like, well, God doesn't believe like abortions, and you're going to burn in hell for having an abortion. But you know what God also doesn't like? Doesn't like that women are going to die from other basic or lack of basic health care for any of these other diseases that they may be exposed to. Like, if I live in an area where there's no hospital for miles, I can't go in and just get a mammogram.
No.
If I don't have health insurance, even if I live near one, if I don't have the health insurance to cover that, I can't afford that. So anything that comes up, I'm no longer able to take care of myself. If I feel a lump, I just have to pray and hope that I'm going to be okay.
I mean, that's what they tell you to do.
But even in some cases, like, some people don't even know to self-diagnose. Oh, you said something?
No, I said that's what they
He's like, that's what they tell you to do. It's just like, I'm going to throw something at you.
You're supposed to pray it away, and hopefully it clears up.
No, I heard him say that. I was just like,
so y'all going to see the lethal stare that I gave to him.
Like, no, I mean, what I'm saying is all sarcasm, but there is a precedence for it, only because that's what is expected out of you. Like, you're not supposed to, complain about things, that pain that you feel. You're just like, oh, well, if I just pray a little bit, then it'll go away.
Yeah, that's not how medicine works.
That's not how it works.
The point that I was going to make is that some of the people in these communities, like where these centers serve, the bulk of the people that they serve may not even know that they can self-diagnose and prevent like a lump being found in their breast. That's why these places exist, is to provide that knowledge and that access to care.
Yeah, but that's why you got the internet, WebMD. That should help you out.
You think these people have access to internet?
Look, man.
But even when they do,
like these are the same.
Like it doesn't matter
the same
because I still need to see a
that
doctor.
Votes against their own interests, and that's what sucks the most. Like they should know about these things.
When we talk about these things, like Title X and what it covers, again, this is basic family planning providers, right? Family planning is not just abortions. Actually, family planning covers a lot more than that.
Yes.
But when people hear Planned Parenthood, all they think of is
abortions.
Oh, that's an abortion clinic.
And it makes the issue so singular. It makes it all about abortion. And the thing is that it's not that one-dimensional. Most of this stuff, and there's actually like a stat tied to it, most of the Title X funding is not even used for abortions.
Nope.
It's in very rare cases where either the fetus that's being aborted is a product of rape or incest.
Yeah.
Or if the mother is in a very
her life is in danger,
like a life-threatening pregnancy, that it's better for her to get an abortion than it would be for her to try to actually give birth, because she could actually die as a result of giving birth.
And remember, we're just talking about the option.
But you know, having a baby is beautiful. So I don't know what you're talking about.
We're not even going to get into all of that. Like,
I can't with you,
Lord. Geez.
And so, for example,
the mom always lives.
We do have like an actual stat because I just want to quantify it. So this is from the 2010 fiscal year. But out of those abortions that were either funded by Medicaid or Title X funding, there were 331. But in total for that year, there were 765,651 abortions. And that funding only covered 331.
So that's like less than 0.003%.
That's just to give context.
It's nothing.
But 0.003% is reckless shit.
I really just pulled that number out my ass. Y'all better not try to quote me on that. Like, I did not crunch any numbers.
Yeah, I heard the direct quote.
Do not come back and be like, well, Maddie said it was just, I didn't say that. I'm just giving you an example. Okay. This is very simple math done in my head.
I mean, a lot of it has to come with certain things that's happened, you know, from a court's perspective too, as far as legal is concerned, with, you know, the confirmation of Mr. Neil Gorsuch, who is all about big business. Now, let me give you an example of how extreme Neil Gorsuch is, and then you can take it in context with what we're talking about. So there was an incident where a man was driving his truck, and along the way, you know, his truck broke down. Now, it's the temperature, I think, is about negative 10 degrees, and he tried getting in contact with the company. So rather than freeze to death because he couldn't get in contact with them, he decided to walk a mile up, stay in a motel, and then, you know, when the weather cleared up the next morning, got back in his truck, started driving. Driver got fired because he abandoned his truck. Neil Gorsuch is one of the dissenting views that said that he was not supposed to abandon his truck. He was supposed to stay in there and freeze to death. So in that line, you can also...
That shit makes sense.
Yeah, because that makes sense. So with that being said, you can also assume that Neil Gorsuch has always been a dissenting view on the LGBTQ community and has gone through extraordinary lengths to interfere with reproductive rights and just but basically all the basic health rights with women and restricting access to abortion. So with that being said, He is your new, Supreme Court justice. Yeah, I'm not sarcastic about anything I just said. What I'm saying is all true and is all fact. And you can look it up. It's been proven.
I mean, that's a way to stifle progress. Another example of how Trump, Pence, and the rest of the administration is gunning to undermine women and their access to basic health resources is basically stripping out all of the maternity care sort of policy in order to help pass the repeal bill of the Affordable Care Act.
Which is still on the books, by the way. If you don't have health care, go register for it. I think the registration date is around like November, December timeframe.
So they haven't been successful in repealing it.
No, definitely not.
But this is
even though they have all the power to repeal it. Dumbasses.
But this is how it gets. So like they're just basically so focused on just repealing the Affordable Care Act. They really don't care what they're throwing out. So in this particular case, they basically traded away what we call these essential health care benefits or health benefits that are included in the Affordable Care Act. And they're services that provided like maternity and newborn coverage, mental health and substance abuse treatment, and prescription drugs. And by stripping that away, women will no longer have access to maternity care. And so that wouldn't be something that you would have anymore. And it's basically with no regard to how these particular components that are covered by ACA and the impact that they have on the women that need it, especially maternity care, because do men care about maternity care?
I mean, I do.
No, but I mean, in terms of what the ACA was covering.
Oh.
As a man, you wouldn't have a need to have that type of coverage because you would never find yourself in a situation when you were pregnant.
Well, what if I wanted to get pregnant? I'm just playing, guys.
So again, just another example of how they are just targeting to go after and dismantle a lot of the policies and coverage that's in place that really at the end of the day only impact women. There's nobody else that's impacted outside of women, which is insane.
Like, this frustrates me, guys.
What?
It's just frustrating. Like, seeing this it's an attack on women, whether people feel like it's a broad statement or not, but it is.
It's totally, I mean, it only impacts women. There's nobody else that's impacted by it.
And I feel like the only time most men will care is, again, when it's directly affecting them. And that's only going to happen when it's affecting their wives or their girlfriends or somebody within their family.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, it's easy to have this idea where, oh, well, for example, women are all going to Planned Parenthood to get abortions. But then when they find out that their mom went to Planned Parenthood to get a breast cancer screening,
like,
and now she's no longer able to go and get like this basic health care, for instance, then it's just like, oh shit, now what is she going to do?
Like, what are the other options?
Like, damn, my insurance is no longer going to cover anything, like the freaking breast pump for my wife after she has a kid. Now what am I going to do? So it's like, it affects men only after it's affected the women in their lives. And by then, it's like all this stuff has been dismantled.
Yeah.
All these protections have been taken away.
And I think said differently, it affects men only if it affects them in the pocket. Because if they are now having to pay out of pocket for it, now you want to pay attention to it.
Because nobody knows how much a breast pump costs. Most men, Yo, Wesley, how much a breast pump cost?
If I were to assume how much it would cost, I would say maybe $50 to $100.
That's cute.
Is it?
I'm gonna find a basic.
All right, we're gonna put ourselves on pause for a second.
No, actually,
I'm gonna do some editing magic, and then we'll get right back.
No, not even.
No, I even want to say that percentage of abortions that were funded by Medicaid funds was 0.04%.
0.04? That's not a lot.
No.
I mean,
not even 1%.
But I don't mind paying for just because I don't take advantage of the system doesn't advantage of the system as in taking advantage of the healthcare that the government provides and the programs doesn't mean that I wouldn't openly pay for it. But different.
But do you have resources to pay for either the mammogram or?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because I could pay for it if I had to.
And you can because you have a good paying job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a loaded question for me.
Right. So what we're
Side
saying,
note, breast pump is $160.
Oh, so I was a little close, but not really.
No, you weren't.
No,
you said 50 to 100.
Oh,
so it's $60 over budget.
Well, I mean, $60
you can find
budget.
a very, very basic one within that range.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, this isn't even the top notch one.
Oh.
But that's our point. It's just
Gotcha.
you wouldn't know that.
No, I mean, I wouldn't, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't. Let's say if a woman needed, she desperately needed a breast pump, I wouldn't say no to that. That's
But thinking about the people that are impacted by this, right?
Should be a bare necessity.
Yeah.
So the people that are impacted by this are probably making $60,000 a year supporting a 4-person family.
That's not a lot of money for a 4-person family.
And so therefore, as the man, do you now have the money to go pay for this $160 breast pump?
Well, I mean, am I the only person that's contributing to the family?
Well, she just had a baby, so she ain't bringing in no money.
Yeah, that's true. And then I guess
you got to think about it like that. It's just and that's what we mean. It's it's an attack on women, but it affects men.
Yeah, it does.
But because they're I don't have breasts, I'm not pumping milk. The fuck that got to do with me?
Or you could just give him the baby formula instead.
That's a whole nother. Who girl?
Which is also more money. So I think at the end of the day, they're in the same situation.
How much is formula? $14, $15?
I think it's $28, $30 for
It depends.
Man, I am off with these numbers.
You also don't have children, so it's understandable.
Yeah.
We're not expecting you to know these things, but that's the problem. And it's something that we talk about just in pretty much every issue that we've covered. If you're removed from it, it's easier to be well, that's ridiculous or that's stupid. Why are we spending money on this?
But it's a social program. How I equate it in my own head is that, with all social programs, people have to pay into that. My taxes pay for certain things. So if you were to tell me, oh, well, your taxes are going to increase because $3 more for some social programs for people who desperately need it, but not necessarily something that would be affected by it. I'd be sure. I don't see what the big deal is with paying for, because in one form or another, I'm going to have to use those social programs, whether it's calling 911 or whether it's going to a public school. And I don't think people really frame it in their heads that way, that we all use social programs in one form or another. We just don't see it that way. We just think that, oh, my taxes are going to this one thing. And that's not true. Your taxes go to a bunch of different things that help everyone. You just don't take advantage of that because you don't need to. But that's okay, though. I don't know. That's how I think about it. But people, by this definition, people would call me a socialist or some kind of bleeding liberal. But I'm neither one of those things. And I just understand that people take advantage of those things for those very reasons. But like I said, I'm different.
Exactly. So essentially, if more people thought that way, Wesley, we would be in a very different place than where we're at right now. where people are very limited in their views and they're very narrow-minded and not thinking about the greater good or how it's affecting more than just this one issue.
Right.
That they're like laser focused on. Like, I just don't understand how women's reproductive rights in the minds of so many people equates to women being hoes. And it's like women just being like super free and like sexually exploring and doing whatever the fuck they want.
But what's wrong
where
with
it's
that?
like
that would be my counter to that question. What's wrong
which
with
is
that?
my issue with like
as
the
a man,
religious aspect from it.
Like as a man, even from a religious aspect, like there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
There really is.
So from the religious aspect,
Yeah,
there is. That's the argument. That's what I'm saying. From the religious aspect, they're saying, well, if we're supporting this, then we're okay with like women just out here having sex all willy nilly. Because why else would you need to be on birth control if it wasn't for the fact that you were just sleeping with anything that moves? It's like, but no.
Then I use the economic perspective from that, right? So we're gonna go more traditional. And then we've seen countries that are very traditionalist in that regard, that from an economic standpoint don't do as great as maybe some states of the United States who do way better because they've allowed that type of industry to take place, like prostitution or whatever, or they section it off. I'm not saying that it's neither right or wrong from a moral standpoint, but from an economic standpoint, I don't see anything wrong with it. If you regulate it just like you regulate everything else, what would be the problem with that?
Well, you're thinking about something completely different. We're just talking in the
religious aspect,
in the realm of women's reproductive rights.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the religious argument is if women have these rights and this access, then it's allowing them to go out and do these immoral things where it's just like, no, that's not. Having access to birth control does not make me want to go sleep with anything that moves. But they're using that argument.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but you're forgetting the fact that birth control can be used for so many other things.
Like
it's a treatment.
Yeah.
But they're being so narrow-minded in that view, which is, again, what always drives me crazy. Like, as a Christian, to be like, no. Like, to be one of the few people standing in a church, like, hearing people talk like this. And it's just like, are you that... Oh, I'm in church, so I can't offend you the way I want to. But it's just like, are you that dense that you can only think about it from this perspective?
But that's the singular mindset, right? Like what I just explained was from the tax perspective. I think about it from an everyone standpoint. If we stop thinking about just what we view as right or wrong and what maybe a societal perspective think that what we view as right or wrong, maybe it would be a different conversation.
But it would still be the same people that would be having the same point of view. So from a religious aspect, they may have the point of view that, oh, as a woman, the reason you want to be on birth control is because you're hoeing around, sleeping around. And like, that's the only thing that they can think of. But then the argument that you're making about like, well, if it's regulated, then it could be a good for the economy. That same person is going to have a singular way to counter your argument for why it's good for society and the economy. And that's what we're saying.
Well, women's rights is everyone's rights.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's not men's rights.
No, 100% is.
No, it isn't.
Well, most definitely. It has to be.
How?
What do you mean how?
How is me having access to birth control benefit men?
What do you mean?
Isn't that what
well, that's the whole argument.
You just said
Leslie?
That women's reproductive health and rights is everybody's like prerogative, including men.
Yeah, it has to be. There's
how?
What do you mean how?
Like, how has it become the prerogative for a man for a woman to have access to birth control?
I think I know what you're trying to ask. Okay, well,
that's our point.
I look at it from a macro standpoint. Like everything is so much cheaper if you say to me, well, hey, like we're gonna put women on birth control for XYZ reasons, and maybe the macro reasons is not right now. But maybe down the road, if you want to do actual family planning or whatever it is, or if you want to regulate your menstrual cycle, like that stuff still comes out of my pocket, right?
That's the point.
Right.
Though. No, the point is that they don't want to pay for it. It's essentially saying if you as a woman want to be on birth control for whatever reason it is, you should have to pay for it yourself out of your own pocket. It should not be something that's being covered by your insurance. Because as a single male, why am I going to pay the same rate for my insurance, or my insurance is going to cover this service or this benefit that I'm never going to use? Like, your insurance right now is going to cover for your ability to buy a breast pump. You personally will never need to buy a breast pump for yourself, but your insurance is covering that. So now the argument becomes, well, as a man, if I'm never buying it, why should my insurance rates be higher to cover this benefit that I'm never going to need? And it's the same thing with any other of these women's reproductive rights. So whether it's access to birth control, whether it's access to an organization or something that's going to cover or provide these services. So you have men that are just like, it's not going to affect me. Why should I have to pay for it? Now, we understand your argument that's saying, well, yeah, it's going to benefit everyone. Like, the more women that aren't dying by some basic ass diseases, then it's better for us. But not everybody's thinking that way, which is why we're in the situation that we're in, where all of these protections are being dismantled. And for the men who are just like, okay, cool, now my insurance just went down $15 a month because I no longer have to cover this shit. That's all the better. But it's going to come up later on down the line when your wife, your girlfriend, your side piece, whatever, is going to need that abortion. You got to pay for this out of pocket, or have to do some back alley abortion because abortion is now illegal.
Yeah, but then back alley operation, back alley abortion becomes really messy. And then you have to go to a real doctor to treat whatever XYZ or new form of disease. Like that's the expensive part of that. And not to mention, and I don't mean to sound like the conspiracy theorist guy, but I'm just like, more women on birth control leads to less of a population. 7 billion people right now is unsustainable on the planet Earth. So we know what's worse than 7 billion people? 10 billion people competing for the same amount of resources that they are. I just don't understand. Like, from a birth control perspective, for men and women, I feel like,
but it's not about that.
That's like a no-brainer.
But that's not how they think about it.
Right. They only think about the moral aspect, but they don't think about the actual, the macro aspect of why it's not a good idea.
If I'm just like a Bible thumping South Dakota like farmer, I don't care about any of that. I care about the fact that Jenny over there is able to go out and be a hoe and get all of these services with my tax dollars. Not thinking about how it's affecting Susie Q up the road.
Or even like the women in his own household.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they're thinking, oh, this is covering the hoes. This is covering people that are black and brown. Right? Because whenever we talk about low income, people immediately think
urban,
black people, brown people, minorities.
Yes.
When the reality is, most of this shit is happening in rural communities. Yeah. These are rural communities where there isn't a black person or a minority for miles. Like, miles and miles and miles. So as you're shutting down all of these centers, whether it's a pregnancy center, whether it's a Planned Parenthood, whatever, like, you're shutting these places down, you're shutting down these smaller hospitals. It's not minorities that are being hurt by it at the same rate that they're trying to make it seem. So it's like, it is Susie Q and Stacy. Is Stacy considered a white name? Either way. You know what I mean. But it's not just us. So that's why we say it's a war on women. Because it's the women that are being affected by this.
Because it doesn't matter like what race or ethnicity
no
you are. It's like it's affecting all women. And it's a significant portion too. So like the Title X program itself right now is $260 million. And
that doesn't seem like a lot of money.
It's not.
It's not. And the proposal that was just put by the Trump administration and it got passed is to slash it as much as 23%. So they're looking to slash $60 million of this funding that goes out to these preventative services and basic primary care that is mostly used by women and low income families.
This
And
seems like all awful.
And at the end of the day, it's so that taxpayers do not indirectly fund abortions.
Which, as we already covered, is like 0.003%.
Yeah. It's like, so it's not even a direct thing, but they're even considering the indirect piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's going to Planned Parenthood, in their view, it
must be going to
it's an abortion clinic. That's all they do. But so this story actually really ends up coming to life when you look at Iowa. And so because this passed on May 18th, obviously it's already impacted.
Yeah, May 18th.
It impacted different places. And it's like it really gives you a sense of like, so you see how much the Title X funds are right now. They're not a ton, but they're helping people. And so
saving lives, literally saving lives.
Like Planned Parenthood itself serves around 40% of 4 million people. That's where they get their care from, is Planned Parenthood. And so in Iowa specifically, they are now being forced to close 4 out of their 12 clinics. So they only had 12 clinics to begin with in the whole state of Iowa. And now they're down to 8. And that was effective June 30th. And that is going to impact 15,000 patients.
Ridiculous.
And this is as a result of the legislation that then the governor, Terry Branstad, how do you pronounce his last name? Signed it into law. Yeah. And so then in this law, Iowa now declines $3 million of annual federal money that was coming in.
Wait. How can you decline money coming in?
Because they want to forgo the dollars on the grounds that it does not want to funnel taxpayer money into abortion services. That's what that law states that got signed by this Terry dude. I don't like his last name, so I'm not going to even try to say it. And what we had talked about before is that the funds rarely go into abortion. So I gave that stat before of like across the board in 2010, only 0.04% of abortions were funded by this type of money, and it was in a life or death situation or because of a pregnancy that resulted out of rape or incest. And so what this then means in terms of the people, so I said 15,000 people, but who are these? What are the centers and what are the cities that are going to be impacted? So in Iowa, it's Sioux City. They had about 4,800 patients. There's a Keokuk Center, which served around 1,800 patients, and it was the sole provider for 92% of family planning patients. So there was nowhere else that these people could go. 92% of these people. And this is also around surrounding Lee County. So that's kind of the breadth of the area that this clinic was serving. Burlington Center serves almost 4,200 patients. And a lot of the people in that area are medically underserved. So there's no other way that they could get access.
Any kind of medical services.
None at all. So now that this place is gone, where are they going to go? They're already medically underserved to begin with. And then finally, Quad City served around 3,800 patients. And so as you look at that, you're like, well, what are all these people going to do?
Like,
man, I hope they don't do anything crazy.
And to give you a sense of what they were providing.
You can't do anything you can't do anything crazy when you have no options. Like, that's essentially what just happened. Yeah. These centers closed and these people no longer have any options. They no longer have anywhere to go to get medical attention. Because think about it. If it's just one within your entire county,
that's a fail.
Like, where are they going to go? To the next county? Oh shit, that one closed too.
Yeah. And it's the types of services that these people will not have access to now. It starts with contraception. but it's also pelvic exams, HIV testing, pap smears, cancer screenings. All of this
doesn't sound like abortion to me.
All of this stuff goes away. And the abortion piece is just such a minuscule piece of it. And I gave the stats before, but that's just to put it into context that because of 0.04%, all of these people now lack access to the most basic things that would secure them a healthy life.
And I think the one thing that we really do have to stress is this money went to those sorts of abortions. Any just voluntary abortions were not covered by these funds that these centers were receiving.
Nope.
Like, so if I went in, it was just like, oh my God, Tyrone knocked me up. I need to get rid of this shit. There were no state funds that were going to cover that. There was no subsidies. It wasn't like, oh, the state is going to cover this much and I could cover the rest. No, you had to pay that out of pocket. But if it was a situation, again, life and death, rape, incest, then you had the option to do that, because not everybody that is in any of those situations decides to move forward with an abortion. And we hear about them all the time where it's just like, yeah, I was raped, but I decided to keep the baby. But if I don't want to, you're telling me I don't even have the option to do that. So this center that provided me and said, hey, if you want to, this is something that you can do, because they offered that option, are no longer getting any kind of funding and are forced to close their doors.
And then it's like your options at that point are slim to none. And the slim options are likely options that, especially for a woman that's in that situation where she was like a victim of rape or she has like a high risk pregnancy that could threaten her life. Everything else is just even more life threatening than if she had access to the basic care that was there before.
Like, you had women that were going there that planned on having their kids, that wanted to have their kids, that are like taking prenatal vitamins or getting prenatal vitamins from there. They don't have that anymore. Like, because of one woman who was given the choice to terminate a pregnancy.
Yeah. And just to give a sense, this isn't in Iowa, but Texas is also their Title X.
Don't get me started on Texas.
Yeah, Texas is too much to go through. But I will say that as a result of the changes that happened in Texas and the Title X reform that they decided to take upon, in 4 years, they doubled the number of fatal pregnancy-related complications.
Wow.
Not surprised. I'm not, like, I can't even be like, oh my gosh, like, this is exactly what we expected to happen when you take away basic health care.
And then as far as the number of patients that are not being served by like the new structure in Texas, it's now 30,000 fewer people are being served in the state of Texas, which is crazy.
Like, that's no small number. And to see like this administration continue to find new and inventive ways to take away these protections from women.
Basic choice in many cases.
Directly. Like, I remember having a conversation with my mom, and Wesley, you know, my mom's like hella religious.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
But we were having that conversation, and she's just like, you have no right to take away a woman's choice. She's like, if she decides to do it, that's between her and God. But who are you to tell her that she can't do it at all? And I'm like looking at her like, who are you?
You're like, oh, I like this.
Because it's just like, that's probably the most woke thing I've heard you say in a long time. Because you be on some real ignorant shit. But she's just like, and it's like, if more people thought like that, it would be just a breath of fresh air. Where it's like, if you decide to do this thing that I consider sinful, I'm going to pray for your soul. But it's for you to decide. Do what you want to do.
It's, I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's my uterus. Like, I'd really like people to stay out of my uterus. Whether it's like you're asking me when I'm going to have a child, or whether you're telling me that I can't get on birth control or have access to it. It's just, we really need to keep people out of like
you don't want me
uteruses.
To ever have an abortion. You also don't want me to get access to birth control. You also don't want me to learn about safe sex. Like, you're trying to push abstinence as if that is going to cover all of these things. And it's like, you can't have it both ways.
Mm-mm.
You can't tell me that abortion is bad, but also not provide me with ways to avoid getting pregnant. Besides just never interacting with a penis. It's not a thing.
That's not real life.
No.
That's like asking a man to never interact with a vagina. But of course, the conversation never goes there.
Ever.
You're looking at me like I'm.
No, I didn't.
In all honesty, I think we just both happened to like stop looking at each other.
That's if I did something.
Like, it wasn't even like an accusatory look to be like, yeah, with your penis.
But I mean, speaking about body parts.
Wait, I want to be here for this.
Wesley, weren't you also talking about another woman's body part?
Oh, you
Them
mean like
titties.
the fact that the double standard is that I could watch like a man suck on a woman's boobie and it's okay on social media and that should be fine, but let a woman breastfeed her child and everybody's like, oh, that's disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself. Blah blah. Why she should be ashamed of herself?
But can we just pause for a minute? And where are you watching guys suck women's tits on social media?
Dude,
like, what social media platform?
He said it's all over social media.
Where on social media are you going that I'm not? Because I have not seen any of these videos.
This is what people will do, like especially on some of the meme social media sites. They'll post stuff like that for like an hour and then take it down immediately.
And you just be one of the first ones to catch it, like within that hour. Like, oh shit! Look,
I'll catch it like if I had to guess, like probably like once a month. Like it'll come up on my feed, and you'd be like, "What the fuck is this?" And then they'll say, "I'm taking this down in an hour,"
because they know someone's gonna report that.
Yeah,
shit.
basically, yeah.
What the hell? Okay, so clearly my social media habits are very different from yours.
Oh, and then there was Twitter with Titty Tuesdays. That used to be a big thing.
That was a hashtag.
That was a hashtag, and you clicked on the hashtag. It was just nothing but all that. They got rid of that. That was on Twitter. Wow. I used to be on Instagram for a little while, and they got rid of that too. You're shocked, and I'm like,
I'm not even shocked. It's just that. Again, my social media habits are very different than yours. I wasn't looking for this hashtag.
No, I'm not looking for those hashtags. They just happen to
maybe it's different when
up.
you have titties, so it's just like, oh look, yep, they're still there.
It's like titty every day.
Exactly. I don't need a specific day. These bitches is always here.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But to your original point. About that double standard, like that just feeds into the whole argument that we're having. It is such a double standard. And the fact that women don't actually have a say in the legislation that's being passed is what drives us crazy. So it's gotten to the point where it's not enough to just vote and go out and vote.
Yep.
But we need more women to run for office.
Yes.
Yeah.
More women. And we're seeing that increase. Like, we've definitely seen a lot more of that.
We've talked about it too in our previous episodes.
But if we want essentially a seat at the table, we want to have a voice in that. We can't just be voting for men who are just like, yeah, I'm pro women. But then when they get to the table, it's just like, oh shit, I'm going to feel pressured to go against what I just stood up here and told people.
And I mean, even being pro women is such bullshit. Like with Trump saying, I highly respect women.
Man, fuck everything he says.
But then you also have like
the CIA is not listening, and they
the men that he appoints to these positions that want to flaunt that they spend time with their daughters and want to use that as a way to show that they're advocates of women.
I have daughters. I talk to them. The fuck?
What?
Is that supposed to make me feel better?
It's like, what are you talking about, sir?
That's not a thing. Like, that doesn't prove anything to me, actually.
It does not.
But yeah, so I feel like we keep ending these with action points for you guys. So I'm gonna just keep doing it. What do? Again, vote. In case you haven't noticed, we're very big on pushing everybody to get out and vote.
Yeah.
To register to vote.
Yeah.
To do this shit and stop just talking about the changes that we want to see and actually find ways to implement that change. So vote, run for office.
Run.
Sir. You got one more time to echo me. I'm gonna throw something at you. But no, do those things. And if you have other ways that you feel like we could be pushing to make that impact and to implement that change, let us know. Like, I think before we talked about if you know about any organizations with the immigration conversation that we had, let us know. Same thing here. You know about organizations or how we can support the expansion of access to healthcare that's directly impacting women. Hit us up. Like, we are more than happy to help push and promote these.
And we actually do have one direct way for you to get more knowledgeable about the issues around women. So I will encourage everyone to go to prochoiceamerica.org. They do a really good job of summarizing all of the women's related healthcare issues that the administration has been going after. And so they have a section around abortion and birth control and fighting pregnancy discrimination, which is a big thing. We'll bring some content to you guys on our Instagram about that, since we didn't have time to cover it in today's episode. And of course, the other big one that we have talked about before is paid family leave.
Word.
So visit
if you
that
haven't
site.
listened to that episode, go back and listen.
That was the Pura Vida episode 2, rethinking like work-life balance.
Yeah.
But that was today's episode. So thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.